Hey there, hope you're doing really, really well on this Monday. I was just live a few minutes ago on my other computer and it completely crashed. So hopefully that won't happen again. Anyways, we are gonna look at a couple questions from Vince, who has started cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, but is struggling in these first few weeks. We are gonna look at some questions about hypnic jerks, these things that happen when you're about to fall asleep and then you just jerk awake, from Bob. And we are going to look at some questions from Jay, who I'm kind of excited about this. Jay wrote me a message about 3 to 4 months ago saying that if I, in 3 to 4 months from today, can keep a coherent conversation, I can write a message to you, then I probably don't have this neurodegenerative condition called I would definitely want to read that to Jay, see what Jay thinks about that. And then there was just an email that came in literally like a few minutes ago that we should definitely read and see what we can, if we can offer some helpful advice there. Before we start, as always, nothing is medical advice to anyone, just general thoughts and general advice that I hope will help anyone that's tuning in. Now, that said, let's switch browser to Safari here, and we're going to look at the first question from Vince that came in 2 days ago. And Vince wrote the following: I'm worried that I won't be able to be cured of insomnia. I've been doing CBTi, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, but it seems that I have difficulty following my sleep window strictly. Plus, my sleep arousal, I think, is always high, question mark. My goal is not to think of sleep at all and shift my attention to fun things to do. What can you tell me to encourage me in my journey? Firstly, I want to say the following, that insomnia, although I myself sometimes say like this is the cure for insomnia, it's really not a disease or a condition for which there's a specific like medication or specific cure like that. It is, insomnia really is a learned response, a conditioned response. And the key is to unlearn, to kind of undo, to detangle yourself from thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. So anyone can do that, as long as you keep going, don't give up, keep learning, keep unlearning, etc. That, I think, itself is encouraging. The most encouraging thing I can share with anyone that's tuning in here is that in my experience, I've never had anyone that has not given up, that just keep asking questions, keep working, keep trying, that has not gone on to do better. Everyone who it's kind of like diet and exercise for weight loss. Anybody who just keeps working on exercise, keeps monitoring their caloric intake, will lose weight, no question about it. Same thing with CBTi and insomnia. Don't give up, you are going to do better. And by the way, I think when somebody initially really struggles, like when somebody in the first few weeks is like having more trouble sleeping, like a lot of anxiety, lots of stress, etc., I think of that as an extinction burst. Imagine this little toddler who always wants your attention, pulling your pants, like, it's not pulling them off, but like pulling your pants or your clothes, and like shouting and screaming and doing all kinds of things. Well, the only way to really change that behavior is to ignore that, not give them attention. But guess what will happen? Initially, this little kid will be so annoyed, so frustrated and mad that they're not getting attention. They will do everything more. They will pull your clothes more. They will scream. They will yell. They really try to get your attention because they know your attention is going away. They're really clamoring for it. Same thing with insomnia. Insomnia is when this part of your brain really wants you to do stuff. It's like, you can't sleep. You have a problem. You should do this and that. And when you start spending less time in bed, it goes, what are you doing? Spending less time in bed? That's crazy. You should be doing. And then when you're like trying not to think of sleep, it goes like, why are you have to solve this problem, etc. So you can definitely have an extinction burst, which is a good sign. It's a sign that you're trying, you're in the right direction. Insomnia is kind of just trying to keep your attention. So I hope all this was really encouraging. And by the way, I have difficulty following my sleep window, you say here. Well, that's insight. you know what's happening there, and that there's something you can work on there, which is good. So Vince, hope that helped. And then Vince had another question, and it's titled, this email titled, "Brought back the TV again to my bedroom." And then Vince says, "Daniel, sorry for asking this question so many times. For those of you who have not tuned in to the last couple of episodes like this one where I answer questions, the reason I'm smiling is that Vince has asked me, I think this is the 4th or 5th time, about his TV. Where should it be? Should it be in the bedroom or not?" And so let's keep reading it. Your words about stimulus control, it was being not the most important technique. You said that was actually shifting attention. That's the reason I returned the TV to my bedroom. Do you think it's all right? Or am I overthinking it? Here's the thing, like, if, the TV is not important. What important? Yes, shifting attention, I believe, is important. But when you are thinking of whether you should bring your TV to your bedroom so that you can shift attention away from sleep, well, guess what? You're shifting attention to sleep. You're thinking about sleep. And so I think the most important thing is really the following, that set it and forget it is really important. And for those of you who are new to this channel, what do I mean by that? Well, set it talks about this thing called sleep window. When you have trouble sleeping, really one of the key things to do is spend less time in bed. And that could be like getting up at 6 a.m. every morning and not going to bed before, let's say, midnight. That set it and then forget it is like, apart from that, just try to avoid reading up on sleep, try to avoid Googling it, going to Facebook, online groups, try not to react, try not to try things just forget it. Just have that sleep window, and other than that, just enjoy your life, do things that are fun. That is super, super effective. And when it comes to, let's say, the TV, should I have it there or there? Doesn't matter. In my opinion, it doesn't matter as long as you don't question it or think about it. The TV is not the problem, but thinking of whether you should put the TV here or there, that is a problem. Melatonin, should I take melatonin or not? I think it doesn't matter as long as you don't think about it. Questioning whether you should take melatonin or not, how much and when, etc. Is it working? Is it not working? That's a problem. Coffee, should I drink coffee or not? I don't think it matters. It's the thinking of, should I have coffee? How much should I have? Should I take it this time? Does it help? Does it not help? That's the problem. So hope that's helped. And then there was one more question from Vince, which was one that came in 22 hours ago. Daniel, I'll still be following what I learned about CBTi, but since I remember you told me that I get hyperarousal when my sleep window comes, I'm going to try the experiment that if I'm sleepy enough, even though it's an hour or two before my sleep window, I'm going to bed. I'll just experiment with this, but can you tell me if this is all right? Well, I want to say, I know you're working with Martin Reed, R-E-E-D, great guy, Insomnia coach, who anyone out there who's looking for a coach, consider working with Martin. He's really good. Ask him what he thinks. It's important to have consistency when it comes to recommendations, but I'll share my general thoughts on this, which is the following. If somebody has this tendency that they're really, really sleepy at, let's say, 10, 11 p.m., and their sleep window, again, is from midnight to 6, let's say, then sometimes what can be good is to say, well, okay, just stop checking the time at some hour. Stop checking the time at 10:30, and then just go by what you feel. That often is a good strategy. It takes away a little bit of the pressure of having like this narrow sleep window, and also you learn to kind of go by your emotions, like how you feel. That can be really helpful. But I would definitely check with Martin, see what his thoughts are before doing anything on that one. Okay, Vince, hang in there. I totally believe you'll do better. Like there will be, what happens is sooner or later there are these encouraging signs when you're like, oh, I fell asleep pretty quickly there. Oh, I fell back asleep. Oh, I can sleep. And then you start believing, and then you really get encouraged. That is that is something that I think is going to happen, Vince. Just keep at it. Okay, cool. So we are going to move to this question. A couple of questions from Bob, and these questions are about hypnic jerks. These events that happen when you're about to fall asleep and you suddenly jerk awake. Sometimes they're accompanied by this feeling of falling and then you jerk awake. And initially it was someone named Alex who asked me questions about this, and then Bob has kind of asked follow-up questions. Now, I want to make sure I get this right, because Bob kind of sent me 3 questions and then he kind of tweaked them. So here it is, and this one, yeah, I got it. Okay, so here it is. From 6 hours ago, Bob wrote the following. I have refined my question for tonight's podcast, if you don't mind. After having a little bit more time to reflect on what my original questions were, I read questions. Number 1, I know you said that hypnic jerks can be caused by psychological factors, but is it possible for hypnic jerks to be psychological in and of themselves? All the research I've done on hypnic jerks suggests that they are physical, such as muscle twitches, but from what you discussed in pod number 70, it sounded like they could be psychologically created as well. Here is my thinking on this. My belief is that they are physical. They are kind of like a reflex, like a kind of concerted reflex that involves multiple muscle groups. So they are physical, and my belief is that they cannot be directly caused by a thought or a worry or something like psychological like that. However, if we think about our psychological state, they can definitely influence, in my belief, how strong these jerks are, if they happen or not, and how we react to them as well. Meaning, actually, I'm going to take a little detour here and sneak in some observation. Since we've talked a lot about these hypnic jerks, I've been a little bit observing myself and my wife. And I realized that we often watch like a Netflix show in bed, which I think so many people do, by the way. That's why I don't think it's a big deal. In bed before we go to bed. And my wife typically falls asleep, pretty much always falls asleep before me. And guess how I know often that she is about to fall asleep or actually fell asleep? A little hypnic jerk. Often, very often. And myself too, I notice that I have those very often. And so I believe actually that they're very common, but that most people have kind of a little milder version of them that they don't remember. Just like so many other things with insomnia. People tend to believe that they sleep 7 hours, but they actually sleep 6.5. People that don't have any trouble sleeping believe that they don't wake up at all, but they do. And I believe it's the same thing with hypnic jerks. I think they're very common. But people that don't have any trouble sleeping really never paid attention to them. They don't even register them. So that was a little detour. And now to go back to where my line of thinking was before, think about it. I think about it as like kind of a baseline psychological state, if you will. If somebody is not hyperaroused like at all, if people are, pretty relaxed in their usual state of mind, if you will, they will have hypnic jerks probably pretty often, but they won't remember it, they won't be very strong, and they won't react to them, therefore. But if somebody is in kind of hyper-aroused state, kind of some anxiety going on, worry, stress, they've had hypnic jerks before, they have insomnia, etc., then the hypnic jerks can, because of that, be stronger, they can happen more frequently, and there's more reaction to them. They're noticed. And then, people wonder why they're happening, etc., which further increases this hyperarousal state. So, and again, I know I said this before, but for those who haven't heard this analogy, it's like, again, the 100-meter dash runners, they're in the start blocks. They're in a very hyperaroused state. Even a sneeze can get them to dart out. And so that kind of shows how that in that hyperaroused state, when their mind is kind of like very on edge, if you will, that can make it much easier to have one. It can make them stronger, etc. So I think they are physical, but they can be influenced, the frequency, the intensity, the reaction to them can be influenced a lot by kind of our psychological state. So hope that answered number one, Bob. Number two, looking back at my earlier question, I do not believe that I perhaps worded the question about the transition into sleep overriding the hypnic jerks correctly. Clearly something is overriding the hypnic jerks, because even if you have a hypnic jerk, you're able to get to sleep without them interrupting your sleep process at some point. Is this true? And I just realized that I think, yeah, that was the question. So the question here is, if you have a hypnic jerks, you're able to get to sleep without them interrupt your sleep process at some point. Is this true? I think that here's what I'm thinking. I don't think that anything is overriding them, actually. I don't think it's like, okay, if you didn't do this, you would have, but because you did this, you kind of, powered, you use something to prevent them. I think, or how should I put this? Now, this is what I believe. They are influenced by our kind of our state of how aroused we are, how hyper alert we are, and I don't think we can like do anything to decide to like, okay, I'm going to do this, so I override the hypnic jerk. But if we are in a less hyper aroused state, they happen less and they're less intense. So then you can go to sleep without them interrupting your sleep. Yes, meaning if you're kind of in a less hyper aroused state, you either may not have them, or they may be so mild that they don't interrupt you going to sleep. They don't interrupt your sleep process like that. I hope this answered this question, Bob. And we say clearly something is overriding the hypnic jerk, but I think, again, it's not so much the way I word it, it's not so much overriding it, but again, if you're more calmer, they're not so pronounced. Hope that answered that question. Otherwise, just shoot another question my way. And number three here, Bob actually wrote an email just 3 hours ago and said, I further refined my third question, and I did get to it before the podcast, which he was wondering if I would, which is the following then. Is letting it happen the best strategy? By the way, that's what I've been saying actually since I started talking about hypnic jerks, that I believe the best way to have less of them is to like not try to figure out why they're happening, not paying any attention to them, and just in a way, yes, let them happen. And then the less you think about them, the less hyper aroused you are, and the less they will happen. That is my belief. Is letting it happen the best strategy to help you transition into sleep? Because in doing so, you are minimally disrupting the sleep process so you can continue on the path of transitioning into sleep, as opposed to trying to get rid of the hypnic jerks in the moment they happen, which gives them focus, which turns your brain on and further disrupts the transition into sleep. Here's my thinking. Is letting them happen because you're minimally disrupting. So the first part of this is letting them happen the best transition to transition into sleep, because in doing so, you're minimally disrupting the sleep process so you can continue on the path of transition to sleep. I don't think so. I think at the particular night, at the particular instance, when you're having a hypnic jerk, there's really not much you can do. That's my belief. At that point, like, it's either it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. You can't really influence that much right then and there. However, by kind of like, okay, I had a hypnic jerk. Well, I had it, I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to, continue like laying here relaxing, or I'm going to read a book or whatever it is. By not reacting to it, and then following night, you have your overall kind of state of psychological state is going to be less hyper aroused, and it's less likely to happen, or it's less likely to be pronounced the next night. That's why I think that letting it happen is the best strategy. And then going on here, as opposed to trying to get rid of the hypnic jerks in the moment they happen, which gives them focus. Yes, I think definitely If you have a hypnic jerk and then you right there and then decide, how am I going to prevent this from happening again? Then you're very likely to have them again because you're giving them attention right there and then. Yes, I think that's the problem. So I hope this answered your questions, Bob. And if not, then please email me again. And by the way, Alex, who kind of started this latest talk on the channel here about hypnic jerks, is going to join me as a podcast guest, and we're gonna talk about questions in general. So I think, Bob, for you, anyone else that wants to hear more about hypnic jerks should tune into that one. I'm gonna definitely, it's gonna be up on Friday night sometime. Cool. Now, as I mentioned 37 minutes ago, an email came in from Stacy, which I haven't read through. I'm just gonna read it right now, and we'll see what we can offer that could hopefully be helpful to Stacy. Hi, Dan. I'm finding your talk so helpful and your positivity very uplifting. So thank you for what you do. Anytime, Stacy, and thank you for sending me a question here, which is so important for this channel. I would love for you to answer my question, please. Absolutely. I've been struggling with insomnia off and on since March. It was out of control about 3 months after I went off my SNRI, which is, SSRI is like SSRI is the most common like antidepressant. So I think this is a similar type of medication. And I started getting very anxious, which led to no sleep at all. I tried a few sleeping pills, and no, they're not good for me because I end up feeling worse from the drug than just not sleeping. After being tired of walking around in a side effect haze from sleeping pills, I decided to do CBTi, sleep restriction, starting in early October. And within a week, it was like I reset my whole system. Cool. I went back to sleeping 7, then easily 8 hours every night. This continued for almost 5 weeks with no hiccups, and I was thrilled. I didn't have to continue with the restriction at all. Then I started having restless nights again in November last month. I'm still yo-yoing. Some nights, or even up to 4 in a row, I'll sleep great, 7 to 8 hours. And then some nights I won't go to sleep until 3, 4, or 5 a.m. and sleep very little. I'm frustrated as I thought I was cured, and I'm anxious about it again, even after using all the strategies I've learned through CBT and meditation, spiritual work, mindfulness, etc. My question is, should I be really strict and only allow 6 hours for sleep over a longer term? I went 5 weeks with no trouble, then the sleepless nights came back again. How do I get it under control for the long term and forget that this was ever a problem? Will it keep creeping back even after CBTi, even when sleep trust is high? I want to end this roller coaster that I am on and get back to my previous self. Thank you for advice, much appreciated. First of all, Stacy, I want to say that I've been struggling off and on with insomnia since March. So that's about like March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That's about 10 months, right? Yeah. Which is a long time to have trouble sleeping, but you can still remember, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when you're sleeping good, which puts you in a much, it's going to be easier for you. Not easy, but it's going to be easier for you than for someone that had trouble sleeping like 10 years. Because if you had trouble sleeping for that long time, it's almost like you're part of your identity. So I'm just mentioning this because I think that's a positive for you. That's something you should feel encouraged about. Number two, you did amazing. Like you did this bedtime restriction, and it seems like you did it just by yourself, and you had such a great response. That's also super encouraging. I mean, that is proof. If you ever went into that place where you thought, something's wrong with me, I can't sleep, I have something wrong with my sleep system, etc. That is such good proof that that's not the case. And then you had started having restless nights again in November. And here's the thing, like, you probably heard me talk about the 3P model, which kind of explains why chronic insomnia happens. And if not, then do read up on that. The 3EP I think is really helpful. But the key thing there is that insomnia is really a reaction to sleepless nights. Now, when somebody starts having, let's say a series of nights where they sleep very little, then what happens is that part of the brain that is there to make us safe identifies that as a problem and goes, okay, it kind of locks down on like sleepless nights. It's a problem. We got to fix it. And that's when we try to do stuff, try to make sure we get enough sleep, try to go to bed early, try to do this and that. And those efforts of trying to sleep just creates actually more anxiety around it, which creates less sleep, which creates more efforts, etc. That's how it happens. Now, why am I bringing that up? It's because somebody that's never had any problem sleeping whatsoever, they will often not react very much to restless nights, and then they will go away. But somebody that has had trouble sleeping for several months and starts having restless nights will have a stronger reaction, and often will go like, oh no, my insomnia is back. Why is it back? What can I do? I did this last time. What if I do that same time? And now what happens is you've already tried CBTi one time. You've already done sleep restricted time at one time. Now there's kind of this expectation / worry, meaning like, okay, now I'm doing it again. Will it work this time, or will it not work this time? What if it doesn't work this time, etc. And then that the fact that you've done it one time can in a way make it harder the second time around, because you have this expectation or worry that it won't happen again, which can then make it harder for it to quote unquote work the second time around. And now, but that said, I think everything is still, everything is looking, overall things are looking very good. It's just this, what I talked about so far is just kind of like explaining why this may be happening. And you mentioned the word yo-yoing, which is, I usually also refer to the first stage of getting past insomnia as yo-yo, because it can really be like you say, you can sleep good for a couple nights, then almost sleepless nights, and it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And why does it happen? But it's really all because of the thought processes involved in insomnia, meaning like you can sleep well for a couple of nights, but then there's maybe that lingering worry that it will happen again, and then just something throws it off, and then you sleep very little for a couple of nights, and then your sleep drive, your need for sleep kind of slowly increases, and then it kind of like overrides the anxiety and makes you sleep like 7 hours one night, and then you're like, whoa, I slept for 7 hours. Oh, I think I'm good again. Things are getting better. And then you sleep good for a couple of nights, and then that lingering worry comes back, and then you yo-yo. Now, I think what is the most important thing to do really when you have this yo-yo phase is to have a set wake-up time that you always respect. So let's say that's, you decide I'm going to be up at 6 a.m. every day, then it's good to do that. Even if it's been like one of those, like you got 3 hours to sleep, 4 hours to sleep, then still get up at the same time. The wake up time really is kind of the anchor for the whole sleep, your sleep. It's an anchor that gives you something around which a sleep pattern can form. And then not going to bed too early is also good. Maybe allow yourself, 6.5, maybe 7 hours or something like that in bed. And I think, that was one of your questions was, should I be strict and only allow 6 hours for sleep over a longer time? I think it doesn't need to be super strict. I think, maybe 7 hours is good, or 6.5, something like that. But just picking something and committing to it is good. And I think another question was like, will it keep creeping back even after CBTi, even when sleep trust is high? I believe that, you have gotten past insomnia one time. Next time you get past insomnia, you'll be in a stronger position because you've done it twice. And the more times you get past insomnia, the better things will get. And the first time you did it was maybe a little bit, not fluke-ish, but like you may not have completely understood how you did it. And then like browsing the channel here now, you learn more, you'll understand more. And then next time you'll be, your sleep confidence will be higher, and you'll really believe in yourself being able to get past it another time. So yes, you could certainly have sleepless nights at any point. That would happen to all of us all the time. But I believe you will also get to a point where you're not going to react to them anymore. So I'm very confident that you'll get to a point where you never have kind of chronic insomnia again, for sure. When your sleep trust is high, that will not happen. That is my belief. And so the question here was like, how do I get this under control for the long term and forget that this was ever a problem? So that, yeah, going back to what I said before, I think it's good to, pick a wake up time and stick to that. Choose to be in bed like 7 hours, maybe something like that, not more. And besides that, once you feel that you kind of have, let's say you stick with my channel here, once you understand insomnia, why it happens, etc., then the next, apart from that, is really about set it and forget it. It's about like doing that, spending about 7 hours in bed, and apart from that, not researching sleep, not thinking about it, doing things that you enjoy. Like even like if you have a night where you sleep really little, even more important that you try to do like something that you really enjoy and shift your attention away from sleep, and just be patient, just keep going. And my favorite analogy is always the one where imagine that good sleep is on this mountaintop and you're kind of hiking towards it. You will have times where you stumble over a root or a rock. Well, if you stop there and look at the rock, root, examine it, wonder why you fell, wonder how you can keep that from happening again, well, guess what? You're not going to reach the top. Just keep moving forward. Don't react to it. That is the best strategy. If you want something besides this channel here, a fantastic book is Sasha Stevens' The Effortless Sleep Method. It has been for many of my patients and clients that have needed kind of a little bit extra support. That has been really helpful. So I think let's conclude there, Stacy, and stay in touch. Let me know what things go, and you got this. I totally believe you're going to be sleeping great. Don't know when. It's never good to expectations, but weeks to months, something like that. Okay, Stacy, cool. Now, finally, I'm going to pull up my phone here, and I want to read. This is from Jay. So Jay has contributed a lot to the channel and asked a lot about something called SFI, which is sporadic fatal insomnia, which is a very rare neurodegenerative condition that unfortunately has been called an insomnia. I do not believe it's an insomnia at all, but enough of that at this point. Let me just read this message that came in Saturday. Hi, Daniel. I was wondering, I think it would be nice in next week or over the holidays if you did an episode on how some insomnias can seem worse than others. Always talk about more about SFI. A long one would be nice. I'm still worried I have SFI. I will only truly know by July 1st, which would make it a year. And if I have no memory problems, I know for sure I don't have SFI. So Jay's thinking like, if a year from, when this started, July, if he doesn't have any memory problems, then he's pretty sure that he doesn't have sporadic fatal insomnia. Because this condition, like it's really, in my opinion, it's really a neurodegenerative condition. It's, symptoms are neurological. Think of it as like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, something like that. Now, here's what I want to read. This is from August 20, a message from Jay from August 20. I'm thinking, if 3 to 4 months from now, if I can still walk and talk normal, I might not have it. And that was about 3-4 months ago. So Jay, check this out. 3-4 months ago, you said, probably don't have it if I can walk and talk. That was 3-4 months ago. Can you walk and talk? I bet you can. I bet you can walk and talk. So, just keep that in mind, because that was what you were thinking. And now you're pushing it to July. Maybe keep that in mind, please. I think that could be really helpful for you. Now, how is it that insomnia can be, some forms of insomnia, if you will, can be worse? I really think of insomnia, yes, there's a lot of flavors to it, but in my opinion, it's always driven by hyperarousal. It's always driven by us thinking about sleep and worrying about sleep and changing behaviors and changing habits that are not helpful, etc. And so, in my opinion, when somebody has really, really strong insomnia symptoms, it's because they are really entangled in beliefs and worries and preoccupation. And when they have milder insomnia, it's because people are not that entangled, they're not that worried, they're not that preoccupied, So that to me is what makes insomnia, milder or more severe in terms of like how it affects you. And in terms of sporadic fatal insomnia, I can't say much more than what I've done in my previous videos here, which is it's a type of like prion disease, kind of like Alzheimer's, or yeah, I know, sorry, I mean, yeah, well, that too, but mad cow disease, something like that. And it's really like what I understand from it is that it is rapidly progressing. So if there's not like obvious neurological problems like walking, talking, etc., like that, within a few months, then what I understand from it is that you don't have it. And by the way, what I also have read is that if you ever have like SFI and then you take sleep medication and you sleep more, like you did, then it is you don't have it. That's my understanding of it. But as always, not medical advice here. Check with the doctor. But that's my understanding of it. And so let's conclude there. And I'm so grateful for every single question I get, every single comment, every single like, etc. So thank you so much, everyone. I will. Oh yeah, one more thing. I want to do more of these episodes where I talk to people, experts, as well as people with trouble sleeping. So if you want to just do like a recorded Skype session, we would just talk about whatever questions you have, let me know, and we'll try to find some time to do that. That said, I hope you have a really nice week going forward here, and look forward to having you back tomorrow. Until then, take it easy.